going on, everybody? I'm Christian Palmer, and you're now tuned in to the official launch of Off the Cuff, where conversations lead to inspiration. Today, I'm joined by a special guest. He's a financial advisor, entrepreneur, the founder and CEO of Deane Financial, a wealth management firm for millennials in tech. He's also an adjunct professor, inspiring and motivating students to invest in their future self. Without further ado, here's Off the Cuff with Samuel Deane. Tell me where the kind of idea developed from.
I knew that I wanted to start a business. I didn't know what type of business it was going to be. And so I'm like, hey, if I know I'm going to be a business and I don't necessarily have that background, I'm going to go in and get an MBA. And so while I was in business school, I started working in finance. Before I actually took a position, I interviewed at so many different places. And the one thing that stood out to me was that every one of the larger financial institutions that I interviewed at, they all had the same culture. They were all serving the same people, wealthy baby boomers, right? I had nothing in common with my colleagues. I had nothing in common with the people that we were serving. And it was very sales oriented. Like, they weren't doing things in the best interests of the people that they were supposed to be serving. And so when I kind of noticed the holes and the flaws in most of their business models, and, you know, at the time my fiance was working in tech. She was just getting her feet wet in tech and going through a boot camp as a UX designer and doing different projects and things like that. I really noticed an opportunity in tech, but through the lens of wealth management, if that makes sense. So a lot of tech companies offer equity compensation to their clients, and this is an industry where there are more financial advisors that are over the age of 70 than under the age of 30, right? And so every room that I would walk into, I would be more than likely 99% of the time the only black person in the room and the youngest person in the room. Wow. And so for me, you know, I just didn't really like how the culture was in the bigger industries. And at that moment, I found out about something called the CFP. Essentially, just to put things into perspective for you, there's about 300,000 financial advisors in America. Out of those 300,000, 25% of those have this designation called the CFP. Out of that 25% of individuals that have the CFP, less than 3% of those people are Black and Latino. So essentially less than 1% probably of the 300,000 advisors have this designation. And this is a designation that's looked at as like the cream of the crop. You know what I mean? When it as it pertains to the financial services industry. And I realized that if I were to be able to get this designation and use my role in the industry now to just really get skin in the game and learn and take time to perfect my craft, I can then take my experience and my knowledge and do things the way I saw best fit. And that's really just where it stemmed from. You know, I didn't like the culture. I didn't have a lot in common with the people we were working with. And, you know, I just essentially used the role. Be honest with you, like, I wasn't meeting any of my sales goals, but that's because that wasn't my goal. My goal was to be there and learn. So I knew that my time was limited. And in that time, I was just really focused on leveraging relationships and perfecting my craft so that when I do step out on my own, that, you know, I would be in a better position. Wow. So that was that. Essentially, when I took the role, it was already part of the plan for me to like go out and do something on my own.
Got it. So that was pretty much a stepping stone for you to just get everything that you wanted to get from it.
Exactly.
And utilize that to your overall plan of becoming an entrepreneur.
Right.
You're the owner and founder of Deane Financial. And you're going into these rooms, but yet there's still people that may not look like you. How important it is for you to share your story for those that don't look like you?
Yeah, it's extremely important, man. It took me a long time to realize that no matter how introverted or shy that I can be, it's my responsibility to be visible and to share my story, because who knows who it can inspire, right? Like, there's no, if you want to become a doctor, you have to go to college, go to med school, become a doctor. Same thing with a lawyer, very similar with a CPA. But there's no educational track in place for people who want to be financial advisors that don't want to be in that sales oriented type of role or company. And so for me, it's important for me to kind of, again, be visible and to let other people that look like me know that, yes, you can be here. Yes, you deserve to be here. You don't need someone to give you a handout to say, hey, you could, come aboard with us. If you're disciplined and you have a plan behind it, you can do exactly what I did and start your own firm if that's something that you're into. It just sucks that the larger firms that have the capital are so focused on sales instead of developing, younger talent through internships and those sorts of things, and giving them the tools that they need to be successful. I think a lot of people just kind of look at this industry and they're like, I don't think I want to do this. Like, prime example, when I was interviewing, it's very common for the compensation structure in the industry to be commissions, right? And for me, in my mind, I was basically like, why would I work for commissions when I could just start my own business and essentially be paid not the same way, but the theory is the same, right? You only get commissions when you get a client. I would only get paid if I got a client. So why not start, my own firm? And so that was kind of just the mindset around it.
Wow. And then, Deane Financial has been getting tons and tons of press, right? Good press.
A little bit.
And because I try to keep myself like the pulse of just understanding financials, and I've seen, of course, I follow you on your social media platforms, and I have a strong connection to you, so I'm aware of the publications that are out there that you had the opportunity to showcase your story, and obviously your projects coming up.
Yeah.
With all these publications, I know you've been in HuffPost, CNBC, Forbes, and so on and so forth. When you're speaking to some of these reporters, what's one thing that you wish they asked you more about?
I think for me, I would love if reporters would kind of ask me more about why I chose to build the business I chose. I think it's somewhat unique that, yes, I have a wealth management firm, but I work exclusively with millennials in the tech industry. And so there are reasons for that. That's done purposefully. And it would be nice to have, reporters ask me, why did I make certain decisions and what's the vision behind it and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, when that's making it about me, right? At the end of the day, when these reporters are putting out their stories, the benefit is for the mass audience, right? So they're putting out stories that can affect millions of people. And the reason why I chose to only focus with millennials in tech is probably not a good thing or at least beneficial for them to promote. So I think it's just a matter of aligning the interests.
Well, tell me about that. Tell me why the direction you wanted to take for your business was solely on millennials in tech.
Again, I think relativity plays a big role whenever you're starting a business. Relativity plays a big role, especially service-based business. Relativity plays a big role in how you connect with your customers and whether they take your advice or not, and those sorts of things. And so I'm obviously a millennial, and I wanted to work with my generation. I think there's a lot of advice out there that's like, you need to be maxing out your 401k, you need to be saving for retirement, you need to do this and do that. And it's very general, sometimes outdated information. And so for me, it was important to work with a demographic where I understand them wanting to go on a vacation versus killing themselves to pay a student loan debt. And I want them to know that I understand and that we kind of see eye to eye. And that if I'm giving them advice saying that that's a bad idea, whether I do or don't, that they know that, okay, well, he at least understands where I'm coming from because, he wants to probably go on vacation also, versus this 60, 70-year-old advisor saying not to do this because he's old and grumpy. You know what I mean? So I just think that there's an alignment there. Specifically in tech, like I said, it was really my fiance just being involved in that world, and obviously us doing our research on the a good demographic that we could focus on out the gate. It was always about being a specialist, right? Instead of being a generalist. There's so many financial advisors that are out there. I was looking for ways to differentiate myself from everyone else. And so for me, being able to say that, hey, I'm a specialist in equity compensation, I'm a specialist in tax planning, I'm a specialist in qualified small business stock and things like that, which are things that millennials in tech are heavily involved with. It kind of, if you're a millennial in tech and you're talking to a friend of yours and you're like, or a colleague, and they're like, hey man, I'm looking for a financial advisor, and you're like, oh yeah, I have one, you should go check them out. They may or may not go, right? But if you're saying, hey, I have a financial advisor, they work exclusively with millennials in tech, you being in tech, it might set off an alarm like, oh, I didn't even know advisors only worked with just a specific group of people, right? That's somewhat uncommon.
Right.
So for me, that was my part, at least an aspect of my competitive edge into why I wanted to be a specialist instead of being a generalist.
And what are some like kind of the financial rules that you live by?
Oh man, that I live by. I give both myself and my fiance an allowance.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So whenever that direct deposit hits, we have an automatic transfer that goes. So we have a joint account where all our direct deposit hits, and we have individual accounts to where we get automatic transfers whenever we get paid a fixed amount, and that's how much we have to spend until we get paid again. And that's, for me, that's the best way for me to do it. So
I mean, that's a blessing, man.
Yeah.
Blessings. Good to be in your household, for real. Might have to come visit you at one time. And then in regards to like kind of just being on the topic of finances, right? What are some of the financial platforms that we like as millennials now should be tapping into or even looking out for?
Man, I really think the biggest thing is just getting a grip of your cash flow. Like, so many people want to invest, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to earn the rights to invest, right? It's like someone coming up to you saying, hey, I want to build a house, let's go get the supplies for the roof. That doesn't make any sense, right? You build a house from the basement up, right?
Absolutely.
So it's the same thing with personal finance and building your foundation. It will be detrimental to your future to focus on investing if you're spending more than you're earning, right? If you have credit card debt that's outstanding, right? If you have things that are more of a priority, those things should be taken care of first before investing. And so I would say that to kind of get started, you want to be very secure with your budget. You want to know that you're keeping most of what you earn before you can kind of dive into that investing world.
And then one of the things I mentioned in regards to the introduction was that you're an adjunct professor now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What are some of the things that you're currently teaching and you hope that your students take away?
So it's really unique, and I'm really thankful for just the opportunity to be doing this, because the group of students that I am teaching this personal finance course to they're all disadvantaged. They're all from a disadvantaged background, right? So they're from places that we're from, and out of the 24 students, I would say maybe like 40% of them want to at some point start their own businesses, whether it's in real estate or in finance. Or I have one student that wants to go to the military, then come out and start his own like security firm or something like that. And for these students are all graduating with no student loan debt.
Wow.
So for me to be super powerful,
Sheesh.
no student loan debt.
What?
And they're graduating from Baruch.
Okay.
Right. So
Which is a really good
school,
right? Yeah.
So for me to be able to give them the tools and the resources that are needed to be successful in their life, and them not having certain things hold them down like student loan debt when they graduate, I am so confident that I will be able to, I'm contributing to their, to the shift of their family trajectory, right? Again, a lot of them are from disadvantaged backgrounds, and their parents more than likely look to them as their retirement plan, right? So again, just being able to, and they all love the class. Like they all come with questions.
Nice.
Like last week, I came into the class and I'm like, all right, guys, I'm gonna give you guys a verbal quiz. If you get all the questions right, I won't give you an actual quiz. But if you get even one question wrong, next week I'm going to give you a quiz, but it's going to be short answer. I asked them questions, and it was the actual quiz that I was asking them questions, but verbally, and they got them all right. And I'm just like, man, these kids are really studying this stuff. They're really studying this stuff. And so it just goes to show that, you know, if you provide the resources and you provide the tools, the people that want it will use it. And I'm just so thankful that, you know, I was tapped to fill that role and to, you know, change these kids' lives. There's tons of advisors I talk to today, and they're like, I'm like, you know, why'd you choose to become a financial advisor? And they're like, back in high school, I took this class and we had this guy come teach us about personal finances, and I've been hooked ever since.
Wow.
It would be cool if, you know, I can have that sort of impact, and if not that, just have an impact to help them, you know, achieve the things that they want to achieve. And so that was definitely, I didn't think I would feel this way about the opportunity, but it's something that that brings me a lot of fulfillment.
So I was on your Twitter the other day, and I came across this. And it was actually not finance related, which was really intriguing. But it goes like this. It says, overheard my mom on the phone with my grandma saying coming to America and affording to provide for a family was a dream she never thought was possible. Yet here we are. Go get the life you want. Yeah. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. I even get teary-eyed just thinking about it. But 2 days ago, it had like 2 or 3 days ago, I overheard, like you just said, you know, my mom talking to my grandma, and they were really speaking about me and, you know, how my mom is so proud of me. First, it doesn't take much to make my mom proud of me. Let's just say that. It takes way more to make my dad proud. But, you know, she was just really basically saying, you know, she's willing to help me and support me emotionally in whichever way that, you know, she needs to, in order for me to kind of be where I want. And it just made me reflect, like, and so in the conversation with my grandma, she was basically saying that, you know, coming here wasn't even something that she thought was possible. I mentioned earlier, like my dad didn't graduate college, didn't even go to college, and I'm not even 100% sure if he graduated high school. I don't know. He lived in like more so like the countryside, so I'm not even sure how much education was really emphasized in his household. It was more so about like surviving, right? And same with my mom, where she didn't have any money growing up. You know, she's one of 8. She would tell me stories of her having to bake the goods just so that she can get money for transportation to go to school, how her and her 7 brothers and sisters would share one plate of food and just kind of sit around that and like pass the spoon to each other and eat off that. There are times where they didn't have any light, where my mom would be studying for her nurse exam with a candle, like in a dark room and a candle, trying to read what the book was saying. And, you know, that I feel that, you know, that hit me here, because I see all the hard work that they put in. And I feel her when she says, you know, that was coming here wasn't even something I thought was possible, let alone coming here and achieving the things that we've achieved, especially in the short time frame, you know. And so I look at that as, if my parents could do it with no assistance from their parents, with no assistance from family, just kind of coming here and doing what needed to be done with a kid in a strange country, not knowing much about like college and those sorts of things, and still preparing me to be where I am today, it's monumental. And so if they could do it and get here, then it's my responsibility, you know, to kind of progress our family even that next level. So I'm grateful for everything that they've done, and I'm even more grateful for them being open to and supporting what I'm doing, because they understand that it's my version of what they did in terms of following their dreams to provide for their families and serve the people that they want to serve and so forth. And so that really, it touched me.
So if there's millennials in tech right now tuning in for the first time, and seeing for you, for example, seeing Deane Financial for the first time, didn't even know it existed, but it's here, right? What would you say to them? How do they support you, and how do they stay up to date? Or even sometimes, how to become a client, right?
Sign up for my newsletter. All jokes aside, if you're a millennial in tech and you feel like you've reached a point where, and I hate saying you've reached a point, because I feel like having financial advice and financial guidance is important no matter what stage of life you're in. But if you've reached a point where you've come to the idea that you need help with your finances, or maybe you just want to make sure you don't make any mistakes. It may not be you need help. It may be, this is what I have and I want to make sure I don't blow it. You definitely feel free to sign up to my newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter we send out every Wednesday, where I include a blog post that's 99% of the time related to equity. The entire newsletter is strictly based on equity compensation, the world of startups and tech, and really just other things that apply to you as a person that will help you to be successful, whether it's how to build better habits, how to make habits stick, how to understand what your money story is, right? Like your perspective on money, which is based on your childhood, and all those sorts of things. So I spend a lot of time just making sure that there's a lot of value there. And so, I think that if you're a millennial in tech, you'll definitely find that newsletter very valuable.
Absolutely. And where can we find this newsletter?
Yeah, you can find it on my website at deanefinancial.com. So it's my last name, Deane, financial.com. Head over to the blog section and you can subscribe with just your name and email address. And you're good to go.
There it is. And there you have it. I'm Christian Palmer, and this was Off the Cuff with Samuel Deane, where conversations lead to inspiration. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time.